I personally think that this whole altercation was unnecessary, very unnecessary.
So that's Ralph. Yeah, he shared it on Facebook. I think after the report, the committee's report. I don't know what he. Oh, this was before. Okay, and it says truth and justice is what we asked for. Okay, that's fine. Please go ahead.
He should continue in these acts, but whatever happened is very unnecessary. They shouldn't have started looking at the report, because the main reason why this whole thing happened was the fact that they felt somebody had a head injury and the person was not being attended to. And the report has indicated that the individual had been taken care of. So there was no delay in taking care of the individual, except to say that the equipments available, that's in the form of X-rays, MRI, and other equipment that could have helped the work of the medical professionals, they were even faulty. So it was not a matter of whether the professionals were delaying or an act of negligence or whatever. So whatever Ralph did was very, very unnecessary. In fact, he's executed this act of impunity over the time, going on the streets, chasing people here and there, and so on. We have laws in the country, and as much as we need to safeguard our laws, as much as we need to safeguard matters in this country, individuals cannot take the laws into their hands and become vigilantes and walk around chasing people around with canes, threatening people that they'll be beaten and so on, to the extent that you go into an ER to visit such mayhem on them. You know, I have seen, and even from the committee's report, that the victim in question, which is the nurse, did not suffer any dislocation. I've watched the video. I suspect during her interview, if you look critically at the video, she paused.
Yes.
At that moment, and somebody suggested the word dislocation to her, and she also said dislocation. In the heat of the moment, probably that was not what she meant to say, but then once the word was suggested to her, she also responded to it. But then, be as it may, she mentioned that she was hit on the shoulder. This is a female, and that's clear assault. Unfortunately, there is no video evidence to it, and it's interesting that the committee has recommended that CCTV should be upgraded within the ward, so that in case there is an occurrence, there will be evidence. Because the evidence available is what Ralph himself presented to the public through his live streaming. That's what is available. And we saw the period where he was shouting, the verbal attacks and so on. I do not think he would have recorded himself hitting the lady. So as it stands now, it's an allegation between is the word of the nurse against the word of Ralph. And I have seen, I think there's a court process that has been initiated. A case has been filed on this same matter. So I think maybe the criminal aspect will roll out and then we'll see the outcome. But quite disappointingly, if anybody should have entered a medical facility of that sort to even create, or let's say not even assault, but then do the verbal assault that had been exhibited and streamed live, I'm sure the security agencies would have taken action. So that is the most disappointing part, that to date, the gentleman is working freely and he's even receiving embraces and hugs, with people even commending him for that impunity act that he exhibited. If you understand the work of emergency doctors and the conditions, the challenging conditions that they work under, you appreciate what they go through, and you will not come and deliberate over issues like this. Because I have come close to such a situation. I think some few months ago, I had one of my gentlemen, he's my personal photographer. The gentleman was now doing his national service, so we went for a program. After the program, I saw them off. He was on his way home. He sat on a motorbike, and the driver ran over them. So I was called to the emergency. When I got there and I saw the state that he was in and what the doctors were trying to do to make sure they sustain him. And then once they were doing that, they rushed 3 boys to the ER. One's head had been slashed with a cutlass. I'm sure the medical doctors at the ER will be watching this morning and they'll remember the issue happened at Living Waters on your way to Kwamo, the hospital, Living Waters Hospital. The gentleman's head had been slashed and blood was oozing out. That was the first time I saw somebody's head open like that. And blood was oozing out. And the doctors had to attend to all the patients. They go here, they come here. And Moro, it was so horrible, especially if you are not a medical professional. I saw relatives moving about, crying and shivering, shaking all over. Around 2 a.m. to 3 a.m., the doctors had been able to sustain all the patients. They were all in good health, and the next morning they looked healthy, and you could see that they had done their best, and they could refer them to a recovery ward. And it helps me to appreciate the kind of things they go through. And that night, looking at the number of people even in that hospital that were brought in, you can imagine what happens in emergency wards across the country. So if you happen to be in an emergency ward, sometimes there are things the doctors will be going through that we do not acknowledge and we do not appreciate. So we might think that they are playing delay tactics, but on their part, they know what they're doing. They are professionals. And I hope Ralph would take advice in some of these excesses, because whatever Ralph does today, because of his association with the NDC party in the last election, whatever he does today, it is linked to the NDC. Especially now that nothing was done to him, he wasn't arrested, and he's still going about saying all the things he's saying. What I expect is that the party, if he's a member, the party should call him, even if he's not.
We spoke to him the last time about his allegiance
To the NDC.
And he says he doesn't belong to any political party.
But today, it's clear that he has more leanings towards them because of his actions and things he has done with them, his associations with them. They should call him to order, because the excesses are too much. It's too much. And quite interestingly, the party has launched vituperative attacks on even the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association, their president, because he also went to visit his member, and based on what he was told, he came out to talk about it. And they are launching attacks on them. It surprises me that a party that went into elections quite recently got the support of nurses, got the support of associations and so on, would even go to this direction. I thought at this point they should have left Ralph to face the law, but rather they are encouraging him on. If people feel that when they commit such acts, they will get the support of political parties, the impunity will continue. And I sympathize with the lady, except to say that the exaggeration of the dislocation was also unnecessary. That's why I indicated from the beginning that watching the video, I realized that the word was suggested to her. But then the assault on her too was uncalled for, and I sympathize with her. I sympathize with the nurses and doctors, because my sister is a medical doctor, an emergency specialist, and she works in the emergency. And I imagine if it was my sister, what would I do? I'll be very, very angry, because I know the stress that she goes through and all the things that they go through. I have friends who work in the emergency, and I know the challenging conditions sometimes they have to go through to make sure that they protect and sustain lives. So we need to appreciate these things. And it is important that the government supports these hospitals by providing the necessary equipment. Whilst doing so, the question that many ask is that, what do they also use the internally generated funds for? Because if an MRI is faulty, for how long has it been faulty? Or if an X-ray is faulty, if it was a private hospital, would that MRI or faulty X-ray be repaired? How much would they have cost to repair them? And why has it? So these are all questions, but it's good that the report has indicated all these things. I'm hoping that this kind of report will not be kept on the shelves, because in Ghana, issues happen, reports come, and then they are pushed somewhere. After some few days, when the media stops talking about it, nobody hears anything about it. You go back to Rage or 37, and the same issues will continue.
Yeah.
You go and stay there, and they'll tell you equipments are faulty. So I'm hoping this time around, the Minister for Health, Honorable Akando, will, as a matter of urgency, look to the retooling of these emergency facilities, because you don't know when you will find yourself in the emergency. It might not even be an accident. It might be something that does not look risky. But we are human, we are all fallible.
Right.
We are in the hands of God. So as today we are discussing these issues, it's my hope that as a country, we all look at how best we retool and re-equip our medical facilities and make sure an act like this, incidents like this, does not happen again.
Richard, I'll bring you, but you talked about the... You basically, I mean, not in so many words, but you were questioning the quality of the material evidence which was used in arriving at the findings that this committee has made, based on which they've made two things. They've made specific recommendations and they've made general recommendations. Now, I would have honestly thought that as part of the methodology, you would have told us that material evidence was sourced from ABCD, but that's not been contained, so we can only hazard a guess. Indeed, when the matter came up, we saw two types of videos. There was a CCTV video, and then we also saw the video which was captured by Ralph himself. But we'll take the CCTV because we would say that's more like an objective video. In that video, we didn't see a case of assault, except that I think he was snatching something from her. That's what we saw. Now, the committee in 2.1b says that although there is video evidence of a verbal word altercation between Ralph, his colleagues and staff members of the hospital, we are yet to receive any video evidence or a witness account of the alleged physical altercation or attack. There is, however, documentation in the hospital health information management system that the alleged victim, Ms. Rejoice Jojo Bote, reported her injuries on the left hand on the next day, which is 18th. So for me, something doesn't add up. The committee says they can't find any evidence that she was physically assaulted. So what health documentation did she, I mean, how did the doctor on the 18th, the incident happened on the 17th. So how do I even put it? What was she being treated for?
No, but Moro, when somebody hits you on the shoulder, how do you get evidence? Right now,
but if there's a video, if it's a CCTV,
if Minister should give me a punch on the shoulder.
But
the only evidence is in case there's a CCTV.
True.
And here's the situation where the committee itself has recommended that there is inadequate CCTV.
That's true.
So that means there's only CCTV available was able to capture a particular angle.
Right.
And that's the only evidence available. Also, if you look at the report, you realize that even Ralph didn't present himself. He went through his lawyers and indicated that he'll do that on phone. So he spoke to them via phone. And the committee is not an investigative body. The committee is not a legal body. So even what expertise would the committee even use in interrogating the issues, especially when the alleged individual who committed the action is not even in front of you. The person is speaking to you via phone. So that's why I said that currently, in terms of the assault, it is the word of the nurse against the word of Ralph. And these things can happen to anybody. Sometimes somebody may get assaulted somewhere without any cameras or anything, but how do you ascertain that the person was assaulted? Especially when it's a physical blow to the shoulder, which you and I know that when there's a physical blow to your shoulder, you feel the pain, but you might not get dislocation and you might not get a cut. If you don't have any cuts, how can you even get evidence on it? But any physical blow to the shoulder will be very painful, especially when it's done to a female. For males, sometimes we even play, we give a shoulder punch. But for females, how would they take it? So this is something that is very difficult to prove. And like I said, it is the word of Ralph against the word of the lady. And we shouldn't rubbish it entirely. Because if we do that, and there's an iota of truth in whatever the lady is saying, we will be doing her a great disservice. And we would have judged her wrongly while she lives in that pain. And that is why I am careful with my choice of words in that regard.